Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations, much love and respect to you, Akim, out there pushing this word out in truth and sincerity. This is your brother Chayan Apash coming at you with another lesson. And this lesson is going to be entitled The Most High Got Jake Out of Rulership Through the Black Plague. Okay? Um, the Lord used the Black Plague to get Jake out of rulership. And, it's important to understand that because you wonder how, sometimes you wonder how Esau got up in prominence. Well, a big reason for that, when you go in history, it only makes sense that the Black Plague was a major way that he got up in there, you know, because that weakened Jake. People were dropping dead left and right, you know, and, it was mainly in Europe. It was supposedly started in Asia or whatever, but that's all speculation. We know it hit those Jake rulers in Europe heavy. You know, because at that time Esau was in a position of a serf. He wasn't in a position of rulership. Shalom, shalom. Okay, he was in a position of a serf. All right. And you look at the history of the wild man, which they try to act like that was mythology, but that was real life. Esau was really living like a caveman, like a beast. Like Job spoke about how Esau was he was viler than the earth. You know, where they were amongst the bushes, they brayed, right? Because Esau was very much living like an animal at that time. So, you know, the Most High had to get him out of that state because before that he was in a state of as the scriptures say, he had that chain over him. In a Revelation, the 20th chapter, it speaks about the chain, how the devil and Satan, that old serpent, was cast into the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit represents Europe, you know, because of its lack of agriculture, you know, and natural resources. It's known as the bottomless pit, in prophecy. Okay, and Esau was cast into it. Oh, Salaki. Esau was cast into it, but he didn't. He wasn't able to come into power. It was spiritual because the Most High put it in Jake's spirit to be more dominant. You know, and that's where you get the this European what they called the European history with the knights, and the castles and all that. That's all Jake. That's all so-called black people. All right, and and after when you look after the 1400s, that's when that propaganda of Edomite supremacy and paleness begin to be pushed throughout the earth. Because Esau had to go and deceive. The scriptures speak about how when he would rule for that little season, that he would what? He would go out to deceive the whole world. Part of his deception is Edomite supremacy, so-called white supremacy. That's part of his deception. Okay, his deception is not just Salaki. Let me try to adjust this. His deception is not just his his technology and so on and so forth. His deception is also his the white supremacy, right? The so-called white supremacy. The fact that he's calling himself white in itself is a deception. Just that term alone is deceptive. You know, him being labeled as white, you being labeled as black, is all psychological warfare and deception. Okay, and that's what Esau brought forth in his rulership, right? But first, the Most High had to weaken Jake. And the reason he did that ultimately is because prophecy had to be fulfilled. Esau had to come into power. It said that he would be loosed a little season. The only way for him to loose them was through bringing them plagues. And Jake was being wicked anyway, so the Lord was justified in bringing those plagues, man. You know, just look at what Constantine the Great was doing, which was a so-called black people, by the way. Look at what he was doing. The propaganda that he was pushing. Dealing with the mixing the scriptures with paganism, man. So Jake was constantly going off. So the Lord was always justified in destroying Jake. Just like in the time of King David, he saw that Jake was wicked, so he found an occasion to bring judgment on him. And he did that through King David, committing, counting Israel. That's when he numbered Israel, did the census, right? Which Joab and some of the top men they refused to do it, so they didn't count certain tribes, certain people, So because that's wicked, that's wicked, that's against the law. We ain't supposed to be counting the Lord's people because that's not our people. So the Lord used that as an occasion to bring in a particular plague that destroyed tens of thousands of people. Now the Black Plague was worse. The Black Plague was a plague that took out millions of people. Like I can't remember, I think it was like 5 million or something like that. But it was millions of people that was taken out by the Black Plague. And that's to show you how important prophecy is. Prophecy has to be fulfilled. He said, the Heavenly Father said he put his word over his name. So the prophecy has to be fulfilled, one way or another. So he used that plague to weaken Jake, and then Esau got up in there. Yeah, and from the offset, from the beginning of Esau's rulership, he came with that pseudoscience. He came with that false pseudoscience, which the word pseudo means false, so I shouldn't use both of them together. That pseudoscience, he came with that, and manipulated the world, and created a caste system worldwide, to the point where it was pale people was looked at as opulent, was looked at as superior, to the point where they would even powder up their face. You look at those old elites, they would put all kind of powder on their face, to signify opulence, to signify superiority, and that was what Esau was trying to push, and he wanted the world to believe that, so that now when he comes about, he gets particular privileges. They look at him a particular way just because he's a so-called white person. That's what he created. That goes back, that media manipulation, that goes back to the Renaissance. And they had to destroy the dark images. Matter of fact, I got to find some documents on the destruction of the dark images. Okay, I have to find some documents on that. I have to find some documents on the destruction of dark images, man. All right, what they were doing, because Esau hid a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is hard to find, man. You'll find hints of things, in quotes and so on and so forth. But Esau, man, he definitely did a good job in deceiving and hiding a lot of pertinent information. He did a great job in doing that. Did an excellent job, on the left-hand side. All right? That's why you got to search and dig for answers and this and that. These things are not readily available, and he made it like that on purpose. And I remember there was one individual that came to the camp when I was preaching, when I used to prophesy by myself, and he came to the camp, and I was speaking about the dark ages, how Jake was ruling, and he's like, what you're saying is true, because my professor taught us that in history class, in whatever college or university he went to, and he said he told us, "Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody." Why would it, Salakia? Why the hell would these devils say? Why the hell would that devil say, "Don't tell nobody," man? Because they're a bunch of goddamn devils, man. And even when they know the truth, they're not gonna come out with the truth because it's against white supremacy. So they're not gonna speak on it, man. They're gonna hide it. They're gonna manipulate the truth. You see? This is why we call Esau the devil, man. This is why we call him the devil. This is why we call him Satan, right? So, when they know the truth, especially, that's when they go hard with the lies. That's when they go hard with the propaganda. If you ever talk to these Edomites and they're trying to convince you that you know the truth, about whatever part of history, and they'll try to they'll write a paragraph and throw out about 25 lies in one paragraph that you got to go through each lie and dismantle. And when you dismantle that, they'll just move to the goalpost to try to come from another angle. So this man is clearly, a liar by nature. Well, the scriptures say that, he's the father of lies, man. He's the father of lies, man. So he's gonna end up losing this information war any damn way. Esau is gonna end up losing this information war because as the days go by, people start to figure him out more and more. Okay, as the days go by, people start to figure Esau out more and more. So he's gonna lose the information war. So, anyways, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect, and I'll give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, HaKadosh, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations, much love and respect to Akim out there pushing this word out in truth and sincerity. Shalom.